a hot, oppressive summer day when Sergeant Jack Mitchell, a seasoned veteran of the Highway Patrol, sat behind the desk at the small, isolated station on Highway 77. The air was thick with the kind of silence that only existed in the early afternoon, just before the heat of the day drove everyone off the roads and into the shade. Jack had been in law enforcement long enough to know that, in places like this, things could go from quiet to chaotic in the blink of an eye. Jack had a reputation around the town, a reputation earned through years of service, both as a soldier in the military and as a highway patrolman. He wasn't the kind of man who sought conflict, but when it found him, it usually regretted it. He'd fought in wars, faced down bullets, and survived worse than most could ever imagine. So when the roar of engines tore through the midday stillness, Jack didn't flinch. A group of bikers came barreling down the highway, their engines growling like a pack of wolves on the hunt. There were 5 of them, their faces hidden behind dark helmets, leather vests adorned with patches and symbols, their bikes gleaming like predators in the sun. They slowed down as they approached the station, eyes scanning the area. They were on edge. No one ever came out this far unless they had a reason. Jack had seen their kind before, rough riders who thought the open road gave them a free pass to cause chaos. He knew the type. They thought they could bully their way through life, and they had no respect for the law. They didn't know who they were dealing with, but they would soon find out. One of the bikers, a tall man with a tattoo of a skull across his neck, revved his engine aggressively as he pulled into the parking lot of the highway patrol station. The others followed suit, dismounting with exaggerated motions. Jack stood from his desk, glancing through the window as they swaggered toward the door, the clinking of chains and leather the only sound breaking the silence. He didn't rush to meet them, but he didn't back down either. "Can I help you?" Jack asked, his voice low and calm as he stepped outside the station, leaning against the doorframe. The biker with the skull tattoo sneered at him. "You the guy in charge here? We got a little business with you." Jack sized him up, noting the tattoos, the cocky demeanor, and the way they all looked like they were looking for trouble. He knew what was coming, but he didn't show it. He just crossed his arms and waited. "You're on my turf now, cowboy," the biker said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You got a problem with us? Or are you just gonna sit there like a scared little man?" Jack's eyes narrowed, but his posture didn't change. "I'm not scared of anyone, least of all you. This is a highway patrol station, and you're trespassing. If you've got business, let's hear it. Otherwise, you can hit the road." The tension in the air thickened. The bikers, all of them clearly drunk or high on something, began to circle around Jack, making menacing remarks. One of them, a burly man with a beard and a short temper, pushed Jack's shoulder roughly as he walked by. It was a clear challenge, one meant to provoke a reaction. But Jack didn't take the bait. He had learned long ago that the best way to handle bullies was to make them come to you. He stood still, staring straight into the eyes of the bikers. They didn't expect him to be unshaken. They wanted him to cower, to show fear. But Jack was no rookie. The biker with the skull tattoo stepped forward again, this time pulling off his helmet and tossing it to the ground in front of Jack. "You don't get it, old man," he spat. "You're outnumbered, and you're outclassed. This is our highway. This is our territory. You either get with the program, or you're gonna regret it." The last words hung in the air like a promise, but Jack didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. Instead, he took a step forward, his boots crunching on the gravel. "Listen to me carefully, and listen well," Jack said, his voice cold and steady. "I've seen things you wouldn't understand. I've been in places you've never heard of. And I've faced down enemies much worse than you." The biker's face twisted into a mock smile. "Yeah? What's that supposed to mean?" Jack took a deep breath, his eyes never leaving the bikers. "It means you've messed with the wrong man, the wrong soldier, and the wrong station. I've seen men like you before. You think you're tough because you ride a bike and wear a patch, but you're just a bunch of punks playing dress-up." A low growl rumbled from one of the other bikers, but Jack didn't break his gaze. "Now you have two choices. You right now, and we forget this ever happened. Or you stay, and we settle this the hard way." The bikers looked at each other, unsure for a moment. But their leader wasn't the type to back down. He took a step closer to Jack, his hands balled into fists, and his chest puffed out in defiance. "That's a mistake," he said, sneering. "I don't take orders from anyone." Jack didn't flinch. Instead, he shifted his weight and lowered his stance, the kind of stance that said he was ready. The bikers were used to dominating their surroundings, but they were about to learn something about Jack that no one else knew. Before anyone could react, Jack moved like a flash of lightning, faster than anyone expected. His fist connected with the biker leader's jaw with a sound like a thunderclap. The force of the punch sent the man reeling backward, crashing into one of his comrades, knocking them both to the ground. The others froze for a moment, shocked by the speed and power of the blow. But Jack wasn't done. With a swift motion, he dropped low and swept another biker's legs out from under him, sending him sprawling to the pavement. The remaining 3 bikers rushed him, but they didn't stand a chance. With expert precision, Jack dispatched them one by one, disarming them with quick strikes and moves he had learned over years of combat. It was over in less than 2 minutes. The bikers, now lying on the ground, groaning in pain, looked up at Jack. Their arrogance had been replaced by fear. "You didn't just mess with a highway patrolman," Jack said, his voice cold. "You messed with a soldier who's been to hell and back. You'll think twice before picking a fight with anyone again, especially not someone who's been where I've been." He straightened his uniform, wiped his hands on his pants, and turned to walk back into the station. He called for backup and radioed the local sheriff to deal with the aftermath. As the bikers slowly staggered to their feet, nursing their bruises and limping to their bikes, they realized something they hadn't understood before. There were men who wore badges, and then there were men who wore the weight of battle in their eyes. And Sergeant Jack Mitchell, that day, had taught them the difference.